In 1966, there was a little-remembered animated series that ran for 3 seasons called The King Kong Show. 2 episodes in particular featured King Kong doing battle with a mechanical version of himself, dubbed Mechanicong, and would serve as the basis for Toho's second film to feature King Kong, 1968's King Kong Escapes, also known as King Kong, Frankenstein's Son in Germany, which makes not a shit ounce of sense. Speaking of which, I always found it kind of strange that Toho, who probably paid a shitload of money to get the rights to the character, never made more than 2 King Kong movies. I mean, sure, there were a bunch of planned concepts that never happened, but the fact that only 2 were ever finished has always been kind of wild to me. Our story revolves around our villains, Dracula and fucking olive oil from Popeye, I guess, trying to use their version of Mechanicong to dig up a highly radioactive material called Element X that can only be found within the Antarctic. And they spare no time before showing us Mechanicong and all of his, I don't know if you want to call it glory. I mean, it kind of looks like the Tin Man had sex with an empty soda can and then birthed out a roided up muscle dummy that couldn't wipe its own ass if it tried. Like, why did they have to stick its arms out like that? I mean, either way, Mechanicong immediately has a stroke and passes out, basically, which is a great way to introduce your villain monster, by the way.
You did that?
No, sir.
Get out!
Oh, and by the way, Dracula's name just happens to be,
Doctor Who, I should mention this.
As for our heroes, we have Commander Carl Nelson, played by Rhodes Reason, who is basically the exact same tough guy character we get in every single 60s movie ever made. Lieutenant Jiro Nomura, played by Akira Takarada, who really doesn't need any sort of introduction if you've ever seen a Godzilla movie or if you've really ever seen a Toho movie ever. And Lieutenant Susan Watson, played by Linda Jo Miller, who must have really sucked at her line delivery because not only is she dubbed over in the Japanese version of the movie, but she's also dubbed over in the American version too.
Do the islanders really think this was done by a giant ape?
The voice you hear throughout the movie is actually actress Julie Bennett, who sadly passed away from COVID complications in 2020. She also provided the voice for the villainous Madame Piranha as well. And I should also mention that Doctor Who's dub voice is none other than Paul Frees, the man of 1,000 voices.
America and the Soviets can never catch up.
Shouldn't we count on this taking years, Doctor?
100 days, madam.
That soon?
Element X is unparalleled.
God, I love miniatures. So rather than calling it Skull Island, this movie's Kong is found on Mondo Island, which is actually Skull Island, but they only call it that sometimes in the cartoon. I don't know, it's stupid, just call the damn thing Skull Island. Anyway, when they first show up, one random lone islander reveals to us Kong's true name.
Bong. That means king.
Could you imagine how unintimidating it would have been if they had called these movies Bong Kong? This is also our first introduction to Gorosaurus, who would later appear in Destroy All Monsters. And if you're gonna have a King Kong movie, it's basically mandatory that you have him fight basically a T-Rex. I mean, I swear to God, it's in the contract's fine print or some shit at this point. And of course, it wouldn't be a Kong movie without his thirsty ass waking up to the only sound Kong truly loves.
White girl, Susie Janet, going through my mind.
Looking like a double-wide surprise. God damn.
So, I guess you could say Kong's costume has improved since the King Kong vs. Godzilla days. While that original suit looked like it was picked up at a discount Halloween shop, this one looks like it was custom ordered by a discount Halloween shop. Why did they have to make his eyes so goddamn creepy, dude? And the huge teeth, it's just nightmare fuel, man. Like, we're supposed to feel sympathetic towards this thing, and all I want to do is throw it in a dumpster and light it on fire. The Kong and Gorosaurus battle, honestly, is really entertaining as far as like tokusatsu fights is concerned. It's awesome. They do kung fu, the suit opens up on Kong, which is always a good time, and Gorosaurus gets knocked on his ass like when you're a kid and you pushed your older sibling too far and then they just start beating the ever-loving shit out of you. Gorosaurus went from vicious to, it's just a prank, bro. Oh, and he gets his jaw snapped. Again, shit's gotta be in a contract somewhere. Also, the poster and promotional art for this movie make it seem like Gorosaurus is gonna play a huge role in this, but this is his only scene. It's kind of false advertising. I mean, there's not even a scene where the three of them meet up in the Antarctic like the promotional images show you. There's also a snake. It's hilarious. Doctor Who decides that because he's too incompetent to build a decent robot, it would be a much better option if they just kidnapped Kong from the island by using the exact same method that worked for Carl Denham in the original movie. Doctor Who shoots the one single lone islander, it's hilarious, and then they carry Kong away. And at this point, I don't think it's possible to transport Kong in any way that doesn't make him look like a complete idiot. I mean, really, when you think about it, this entire movie is basically just following the exact same story beats as the original King Kong. It doesn't take long until King Kong escapes, oh yeah, that damn title drop, and makes an immediate beeline to Tokyo, looking like he just dumped ass, with Mechanicong hot on his tail for the final showdown.
She insane? She's alright. Kong is always gentle with her.
And this time Kong just like eats her across Tokyo. God, that would've been funny. When Mechanicong shows up, I love how it's just like, it could have easily gone around the building, but it was like, nah man, that wouldn't have been a cool enough entrance. Fuck this wall! And again, because this movie follows the original's plot beats, Mechanicong grabs Susan and then climbs up Tokyo Tower because the Empire State Building wasn't available. I love when Mechanicong tears the railing off the tower and just starts like smacking Kong over the head with it. It's awesome. Really, this whole finale, while such an ungodly amount of cheese, is pretty entertaining all things considered. A lot of giant monster movies from the 60s especially had this bad habit of forcing us to watch boring, lifeless characters for like an hour of the movie, only to give us some of the action that we're actually here for at the very end. King Kong Escapes doesn't do that, which actually makes it one of the better kaiju movies to come out of that decade for that reason alone. There's plenty of cheese peppered throughout this entire 90-minute runtime, including one of the rare moments in which a villain from one of these movies actually gets a satisfying end. Really what it comes down to is that if you're watching this review or you're a fan of my channel, then you will like this movie. It's incredibly stupid in the best way, and it doesn't totally turn into a snore fest like a lot of that decade's kaiju movies did. I mean, it's basically a nice mix of everything you could possibly want in a dumb Toho movie from 1968.